What's up, guys? This is Jay from Revolution Radio. I am here with Scott. Scott, it's been a while. Like the last time that we were on, and I say we, I mean me, talking about you. I had told the listeners that you were having mm, a body part removed from your throat. There was an accident that happened. I understand, though, that it was okay because what had happened, that person was already going through a transition, if you will, and so losing that body part wasn't a big deal. It's,
Well,
it's a,
and of course, after being bit by the venomous snake, I had to suck it out. But and it turned out it was actually a horse, so it
didn't
was
see
cool.
didn't see when they got bumped from behind and it got just jammed in your throat. I got you. I got
It was a crowded room.
you. Hey, but at least you heard the phrase, "Wow, you're a bleeder."
Yeah, that's true. I recommend always having a dentist put silver in your face and tell you later like you're a bleeder and you go no I'm not, I've got a bunch of tattoos, and they said the opposite. In other words, that dentist went ape shit and decided, oh, I had to really drill down into your gums. I'm like, oh, well, couldn't that be why I was a bleeder?
It's good. It's good fun. That's what it is. I mean, the thing,
Ugh.
the thing I will say is, we kind of took some impromptu time off last week, and um, I was doing a ton of shows. I've been doing a lot of crap, and the worst thing about, like, it's good and bad. The good part about it is I'm only on for like 20, 30 minutes, which is great because this time of year, I don't know what it is. I had a specialist tell me it's like barometric pressure. I don't know, but my I have a migraine basically for like 2 or 3 months out of the year, and headphones and stuff like that just kill me. Like I told you before, like I'm only good for like an hour. Even with just an hour, I guarantee you the rest of the night and probably some parts of tomorrow, I'm gonna feel like garbage. And I will hear a ringing in my ear, like I do right now, that is louder than your voice. That's louder than my own voice. Like, I just feel like if this is anything close, like they've said COVID is really bad. If this is anything close to it, like, don't get it. I really don't know. It happens all the time around this time of year. It, some days better than than others. I don't. People have said, well, could be an allergy. I'm like, yeah, but everything's dead or it should be dead. I don't. I have no idea. But yeah,
Well,
uh,
it must be difficult to live by the farmer's almanac and look at the barometric pressure every day and see. I mean, now I will say that that definitely does affect people. There's too many people who notice that their bones ache, or an old wound, or some mending they used to have hurts because of the high pressure or low pressure system moves in. That's definitely a real thing, and not some kind of hypochondriac reaction.
yeah,
And
no, and that's the thing that's been, because last week you were good to go. You were fine by last week, and I didn't have it in me. It was two things. That being one. Because really welcoming in a migraine for the rest of your day is just not something that's fun to do. But also,
yeah, it makes the rest of the day just so much fun. I know.
I gotta be honest too, I finally hit the wall, I think, within the last week or so of just, I am so tired of the news. I don't care. Uh,
Yeah,
Louis C.K. put a new special out. There's Disenchantment on Netflix came out. I I just I didn't feel like dragging myself through that toxicity, and I just had to take the week off. I really, and all the shows I was doing, it was the same thing, it was the same stuff, and I just come out of it. I'm like, I care, sure, I have opinions and whatever, but I I don't care, I guess, like,
I'll be surprised if doctors don't start, even psychoanalysts and therapists, just tell people, it would probably be better for all of us just to not watch the news, like in whole.
I think so. 100%. And I do want to go into that a little bit more because we do need to talk about, of course, the what, 2000 2,000 elephants in the room, that being January 6th, but because we really haven't done a show since before then, and that kind of is
Yeah,
one of the
it was
biggest
right
things.
after New Year's we did a show, so I don't know, it was the third or something like that.
Yeah, but I have to talk about this because I just saw it, and I don't know if you've been paying attention at all to anything. I know I haven't. Again, this is the first like real news I've watched. But I turned on the news because every time we do the show, I always, or if I'm doing radio in general, I always put news on in the background just so I can see like if there's anything breaking or anything like that. I turned it on about an hour early because I was doing other stuff, and they had the Celebrate America, the Joe Biden inauguration. I don't know if you've caught any of this, and I kind of wish you had if you hadn't. Like, if you hadn't, or if I would have known, I would have gotten a hold of you and like, dude, you got to watch this.
Yeah, I've seen some highlights from some things and from a few speakers, and been amazed at some of the epiphanies and some of the 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 best one was the Lincoln Memorial. How one person from CNN said that the lights illuminating the reflection towards the from the Lincoln Memorial towards the what's the big tall one, the big spire,
The Washington Monument?
from to the Washington
Oh,
Monument.
wait,
They
no.
it
Did you
looked
say
like
those?
Joe Biden's outstretched arms of love. I almost threw up.
Oh, by the way, I don't think you weren't you were talking about the spire, not the big penis looking thing, right?
Yeah, you had it right. It's
Oh,
the
okay.
view from the Lincoln Memorial straight out to the Washington Monument, and there's those strips of water,
Ugh.
basically, and they have like
Ugh.
little floaty lights that line the sides of it all the way down, and apparently that looks like Joe Biden's outstretched arms wanting to embrace
Ugh.
us. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
No, I mean that was the entire last hour or so I watched on MSNBC, was just. Uh, can I give you some of my live tweets on it?
Yeah, no, it hit me.
And I think, by the way, at least a couple of these will go over people's heads, and I'm kind of annoyed by that. But it's, the first one, which I thought was really funny, is Tom Hanks turning into Gilbert Godfrey. And if anyone has seen Gilbert, I love Gilbert Godfrey. He's one of the best stand-ups.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He is always squinty, and he's going gray, but he's getting kind of chubby, and that's exactly what Tom Hanks looked like tonight. The
Poor,
side by side, I'm telling you, hilarious. The three presidents getting together. They got together to talk, and I had to finish one of Obama's statements because he said, "Well, when we all are able to resolute and we're all able to come together in America, we can get great things done. Like, and this is my add-on, like killing brown people in third world countries." Because
yeah,
it
like
was Bush,
and
Obama,
not
and Clinton.
looking the other direction when the Chinese commit genocide against Uyghurs.
Yes, no, I mean that's Clinton class. That's what they did. I mean, you know,
I know they're all war criminals.
and by the way, if Trump had been there, same. He's in the same group. Like nobody has ever. Like that's just what we hate us. Like I don't
Well,
know. We're killing them all.
yeah, well, and I was kind of surprised. Even Antifa was putting out flyers saying "fuck Joe Biden."
Why are you?
Like, of course, I mean
Why are you
they're kind of
surprised by
anarchists
that?
anyway. No, no, I'm not. I'm not. I'm really not. Uh, I'm just wondering, will the Biden administration, actually say that Antifa is an actual thing when they start doing stuff against him?
Dude, I mean, you've got people in Congress who, and in the House who, look, the best way to sum it all up, and I don't think I could choose a better quote, and I wish Trump would have would have put in this in one of his ads, but this is from the immortal, the godlike Barack Obama, and he said, and I quote, "Do not underestimate how bad Joe Biden can fuck something up."
Yeah, I've heard that quote before.
And there's a lot of people who have that same mentality. Yeah, he won, great, but I don't think the MSNBC understand that the left, we're out. We're not still on the team. We were on the team because it was like eating a shit sandwich or eating a shit sandwich with AIDS in it. Like, you're gonna, okay, I'll eat the shit but not get the AIDS, but you're still eating a shit sandwich. We want a fucking, you know, we want a Philly cheesesteak. We don't want that shit
Well,
sandwich.
you're going to get Hep C either way.
Yeah, you don't want to compound that with AIDS. But yeah, I mean, but no, this whole thing, this inauguration, the thing on an MSNBC tonight was so. Oh, another tweet, just to give you an idea where I was at. Dot dot dot. I miss Trump already.
Yeah,
and,
this is.
and the reason why is because you don't. Trump's his shit and his celebrations were douchey as well, but they weren't like, oh my god, the savior douchey. Like
Well, sure, but he only had one affiliated news station pretty much cheering for him, and this time you got the whole gambit of news stations, most of mass media cheering
it's
for Biden. So,
it's not just the news stations, by the way, though. It's the celebrities. It's the people coming
oh, that's
together to.
true.
Oh, for me, that was the real, just like douche chills
Yeah,
everywhere. And by the way,
not
Katy
a
Katy
Hollywood.
Perry closed the whole thing down. And can we talk about what
Wasn't Gaga supposed to sing too?
I would take Gaga? At least she's Katy Perry hasn't done anything in years. Like, why is she still relevant? Is it just me?
I
Am
don't
I
know.
am I missing something? I know
No, I
someone's
mean,
gonna be like,
I
no,
always
you.
love to see Tom Hanks, considering how great of a friend he was to Weinstein this whole time. Harvey Weinstein, sorry.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say which one are you talking about? Yeah, they all were. I mean, it, I think you had to be. And by the way, I hate that because either you agree with what some of Weinstein did, or you hate some. You have to now hate really bad, like really good movies. Like, that
Oh
motherfucker
well,
produced a ton of great movies.
yeah. I mean, but he's only responsible for a small percentage, and a lot of the money that went through that stuff. I mean, he's not necessary. He wasn't. Now he was. What was he, a producer, or was?
Yeah, that's all he was. I mean, and that's why they
Yeah,
all had to kiss his ass because he was like their boss.
yeah. He'd
Hey,
be
you
like,
want
"Hey, you want
money?
to be in this movie? Let me grab your titties."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No. And by the way, screw you, Tom Hanks is great. I love Tom Hanks. He's just turning into Gilbert Godfrey, who's also great. But that and Tom, he was the least of all. He just kind of like introduced things and cut out. He didn't really put too much on it. But the presidents getting together, the three former ones. And by the way, I would have just had so much respect for like Clinton, who I think Bill Clinton might be transitioning. The more I hear his voice, I'm like, I think he's turning into a woman. But um, if Clinton or hell Bush or Obama, if they just would have said, "Yeah, fuck Trump," I would have been like, "Oh well, I'm on board." But they kept doing these like slight backhanded, comments about him, like how important a peaceful transfer of power is. And Obama was like, and Mr. Bush, I got to give it to you for being here to welcome me, and Michelle, and what you guys did. That was just it's like, okay, look, with Trump not being there, yeah, it's a douche move, but just say it. Don't play around. Just say, yeah, he was a real cockhead for not showing it, for not being here. Like, there's
I just
nothing
can't
wrong
wait
with
till
that.
the Somalia Obama like memoirs come out. She's like, "Here's my real dad, and we're gonna find out shit you wouldn't believe."
I mean, I wouldn't, I don't know, I wouldn't have a problem with that if he was just like, yeah, he's a complete total douchebag. Cool. All right, great, but don't play this. Yeah, there was By the way, Tim McGraw, who I thought was also dead and gone, he did one of the most douchey songs, "Undivided." I don't know if anyone. There was a country guy with a country accent, which is fine. It's great. Loved it with Johnny Cash and loved it with a lot of other dudes who I can't think of off the top of my head. But he started rapping in a country song about not being
Well,
divided.
I don't think either of us would debate the issue that country's been dead for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, some Waylon Jennings and some of those dudes, but no, it just I don't know. It's that kind of thing, and like we're going back to that kind of thing, and it puts me on that island where I realize, look, there's something wrong with me. I'm so cynical. I'm so dark that I hate all of it, and it makes my asshole grow fingers and starts to
No,
try
it
to
should
cry.
make everybody's stomach crawl to see like all these sycophants come out in mass numbers and sell this, but not and they don't sell it from the heart. They sell it from the storefront like they're a blowing windsock. It's as shallow as it can possibly be, and none of these people and they're also they don't understand what they even represent or the complexities of who they represent. They just present themselves as vacuous cheerleaders, and it's hard to look at.
No, that's the problem, right? Like, and I won't. You'll never convince me that Trump was ever honest or legitimate, or how they say, well, that's the thing that they liked about him, is that he was 100% raw. No, I don't know. But he had less of these like big production sycophants around him. That's what it was. He didn't have Hollywood. He didn't have Katy Perry and Tim McGraw singing songs about him. And so it wasn't all up in your face. That's and now we're back to this, oh, let's be together. And I'm just like, look, I have no problem with us being back together. I think that's a great thing. We should do that. We should always, whatever. In fact, part of our show is, hey, dude from the far left and dude from the kind of right area. We're doing the show, and we actually agree on a lot of stuff. But like, I don't know, this
It just
idea,
feels
like,
fake.
it
It's
does,
just
it
what it
does,
is.
it does, yes. And like just last, by the way, Chris Matthews was on there. Chris Matthews said my people, us Bernie supporters, were Nazis. Just like 9 months ago, we were Nazis. When he saw Bernie win Nevada, he was like, "It reminded me of pictures from Paris when the Nazis came storming through." What, dude? Like that guy says we need to be united. The same people who were saying Trump supporters are, deplorables and
Or when Kamala Harris called Biden a racist.
rightly
it,
so.
wasn't, it wasn't that long ago.
And she was right. But
Yeah.
no,
Oh, he has a horrible history.
by the way, uh,
Yeah.
but no, I mean, and there's a lot to go in on that too. But the other thing too that really bugged the hell out of me is Kamala Harris and Jill Biden at the end. There was a grand fireworks display, which pretty amazing, cool. I'm sure that cost like 20, $30,000 in fireworks. But
Oh,
like,
probably a lot more than that.
yeah, I don't. I only price local fireworks. I don't know, but and Jill Biden, Kamala Harris were like clapping. I hate people that clap at fireworks. What are you clapping at? Who are you clapping at? The fireworks
the guy
don't.
the guy with the smoldering match behind he's the one who gets all the credit.
Fireworks don't need your applause, okay? I don't know, just bugged the hell out of me. There were so many of those things. I mean, you know, um, it's just like, going forward on the other side. Yesterday, did the Write a Center podcast, and I had to talk to them, and um, most of what we had talked about was Trump leaving. And and this is where like my just exhaustion has come from is they're telling me that, oh well, Trump's going to still do this and Trump is doing that, and I'm like, no, he's not doing anything. He's done what he did.
Well,
And
and that's what I was trying to tell my dad, you know. And there, even some, talked to a couple local business owners here, and they were like, "Well, you know, they're going to shut down the airways," and like, you know, and I'm like, "Man," I said, if things were only that exciting, I would cheer for it. But unfortunately, I don't. I didn't. None of that shit ever happens.
no,
You know,
and
are they going to go after, you know, what's his face? Of all the Lolita Express and all this, you know, the sexual innuendo and children, you know, and all this kind of stuff from Epstein's, you know, island and all this. When are they going to round them up and get them? Shit, they're like fucking bankers. They'll never do it. They'll never do it.
no, and I mean, and you can lend to my credibility that I have said it all along. He's not that guy. The Q people, the Trump Trump is, and that was where some of my like just exhaustion comes from because again,
Well,
as I'm
it
doing
wouldn't
this
matter if
show,
he was that guy. He that was, even if he was that guy, I don't think he literally had the power to fight that kind of institutionalized, concrete opposition.
oh no,
There's no,
don't give
those
him
people
that.
are so much more powerful than him.
Don't give him that credit. That's the same thing the left did with Obama.
No,
He
I'm
had
just
two
saying,
years.
hypothetically, even if he was that person, you're telling me that, you know, like Jack Dorsey and Facebook can shut him down and openly brag that they're more powerful than the president, and we're thinking that he's going to take down bigger fish than them?
No,
Shit.
I get you. You're 100%. But I've always focused on legislation, and that's what I always tell people. Whenever they give me some sort of conspiracy or Trump is really the guy who's rooting out corruption, and I'm like, show me legislation. And they got nothing because he never did, and that's not what he did. What was he really known for? Tax cuts for the rich. The same thing that Bush did. And he had those
Yeah.
2 years. He had those optimal 2 years that he could have done whatever he wanted. This and people forget because I hear all the time. Well, he didn't do what he did because the Democrats were obstructing him. No, they weren't. Not for half of his term. He could done whatever he wanted to.
Oh, you're obstructing him. I mean, a lot of even Trump's policies were standard policies for Hillary Clinton and some of the other Democrats just a few years ago.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's where it all falls into the fact that they're all corrupt. They're all
Oh
corrupt
yeah.
elitists, and he's just one of them. That's one of my points. And the biggest thing that I had from yesterday, and I know a lot of people want to talk about the pardons, and there's a lot there, because most of the people that he pardoned were political grifters, were lobbyists, were
Well, he's pardoned Little Wayne. I don't know about him, but
well, there's actually an investigation going on because Rudy Giuliani was apparently selling pardons. And there's speculation that Lil Wayne paid $1 million for his pardon. I don't
that's
know.
pretty cheap if you ask me.
I mean, it's also illegal is the problem. But
For those of you who don't know, Little Wayne got busted with. He's a felon. I'm not. It's. I don't know what his felonies for. I think it's for drugs, but he was busted with, albeit it is a little weird. Somebody gave him a solid, or I would say solid gold because it wouldn't hold up. Somebody gave him a gold plated, like, Desert Eagle, like 45 or something. And it had never been used. It was in a case and it was a present, and he got busted with it. And felons can't own weapons.
no, exactly. Yeah, that's what he got in trouble. And I don't even know what I mean, he's so rich anyway. I didn't know if there was legitimate issues that he might have dealing with the justice system. I highly doubt it because of how wealthy he is. But Elliot Broidy for me was a big one. And because I mean, there again, that's these people who say, "Oh, He's a Trump guy. He's a
Yeah, and
immigration
who are
guy.
we missing from that pardon list that would have been really important?
I don't know. Let me finish this point though, real quick. Is where I'm saying about the corruption and what is the swamp, and it's lobbying, it's money. Like the big reason why I'm a fan of like AOC and Bernie is because they don't take money from super PACs. They don't take money from lobbyists. Um, we see how that works, and that's what the swamp is. There's a ton of people. I like to call them vacationers. That they don't understand that that's what the swamp is. Is it's money in politics. And Steve Bannon, why did he get in trouble? He grifted. He took money for a cause, and then he bought a yacht with it. It's illegal.
Yeah,
That is political corruption. And at the same time, yesterday, and for me, this was the big thing. The pardons were what they were, but Donald Trump reenacted that, or I should say, he abolished Obama's 2010 legislation that said that you had to take like a 4-year vacation before getting into the lobbying after you served in office of any form. What does that tell you? That tells you that Trump is saying, "Hey, everybody, get into lobbying. Let's go. Let's get back into the swamp." And by the way, just to anyone to be like, "Well, you're carrying Obama's jock." No, that Obama's law, as it was for lobbying, was incredibly filled with loopholes. Um,
yeah, it was
essentially,
toothless.
yeah, because you could still be an advisor. Like you couldn't be a titled lobbyist, but you could still make the same money being an advisor. So it did nothing. But the fact that the fact that Trump, that was too much for him, and that had to be like the last thing he did. So you look at it, what was the first thing Trump did? Essentially, I mean, I know there's day one things, which basically taking back a lot of Obama, um, executive orders. That was the big thing. But the next major thing, the thing that really affected us, tax cuts for the rich. What was the last thing he did? He allowed for lobbying to happen right as you're leaving the White House. This is who he is. He's not this dude, and that's my point. Anyway, what were you gonna say about the pardons and
Well, I
everything?
was just saying. I mean, two people that would have been that are goddamn important to say to the way is Julian Assange.
Oh
Where
yes,
he,
yes.
I was depressed that Trump didn't pardon Julian Assange. It's depressing that he's literally guilty of nothing. He did not hack anything. He did nothing. He is literally an innocent whistleblower who has been demonized everywhere he has went, and his
100%.
last decade on earth has been a living hell of self-imprisonment. But I mean, he's in prison in London right now, but it's like, is Biden going to extradite him now to the United States and put him in Guantanamo or something?
I
I mean,
don't think he
all he's
can.
done is just expose internal corruption. Everything from the DNC screwing over Bernie to, I mean, just shit tons of stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
we owe him gratitude.
there's a laundry list of things that were just yes, it was so eye-opening. And I think a lot of us knew these things, but until you actually see it, and Snowden being the other one. But the thing, like,
Yep, there
you
you
and I,
go. That was
you
the
and
other
I
one.
had this conversation, off mic, so to speak, and you said that, and I was like, he won't do it, man. And I'm sorry, but that's the whole point of Trump. Trump is not some moral dude. He's
Well,
after
look,
money. That's it.
and and I'm not one who said that he was going to do this stuff.
No,
Like
no,
I said,
no.
and a
I'm
lot of
not.
times I speak from the perspective of the people who are largely uh, conservative Christians who think that he was going to do things to expose all these, like evils going on within. I mean, that's where the conspiracy lies. It's not that these things that have happened with Epstein and how many, Clinton and all the other ones being on his, the 12-year-old girl island. Those are all true. It's the fact that they put Trump as some kind of moral hero that was going to, take care of this stuff. And I'll be damned if not a damn thing happened about it. And and don't expect it will happen. And
No.
they all were in this belief, and who knows if it's everything from QAnon to all these other people who just were in this absolutely state of denial that you know Trump has to do these things. He's gonna save us. He's gonna no. And I said, I'm not hoping for any of those things because I know they're not going to happen. I'm not putting any gist in that.
Yeah, no, let me just say that when I'm speaking in the generalization, I know I'm not talking to you specifically. Um, so yeah, I know. And in fact, even in that conversation that we had, you like, well, he might. Like you could tell that even you were like, I don't think he's gonna do it, but there's a chance he might. Um, you're right. And look, my theory on QAnon is it's another grift.
It totally
100%.
could be freaking what do you call it, a false flag. And that's it's totally, it could be the same thing as like what I like to compare it to is like 4chan. Like uh, jokingly making a random cartoon frog. Like the and it just basically putting the word out there like it was some kind of Nazi frog. And they just ran with it like the first time, like the OK symbol. That's totally 4chan. Yeah, did you hear about this? They're baiting, the left to take ridiculous shit and just run with it. And if QAnon does that to the right, they totally had them over.
I think it's well, and I think a lot of it is too, there was a poll that came out, and I know we don't trust polls anymore. Uh, you and I had a heated debate over polls, and I'd like to announce that you were right. But it was an interesting poll, and I believe this one. And essentially, it's like 68% of Americans believe our biggest enemy is other Americans. That's disturbing. That's incredibly
Right.
disturbing. I mean, that's the fall of
I
Rome.
could I
But
can believe. I would think that number is almost even higher. I mean, considering, regardless of where you put your vote, you've had multiple news outlets. Basically, I mean, I listened to a montage of it and I haven't been watching, but I decided to watch a little bit of clips of Tucker, and he had montages of audio clips from all the news stations comparing 100 million of Trump's voters to basically ISIS and comparing them to, to the literal Nazis, and that we needed to re-educate 100 million Americans. I'm like, re-educate? These
also,
people,
like,
I mean,
can I just say something real quick on that though?
yeah.
If he would have had 100 million voters, he wouldn't have needed any of it because he would have won. He had
Well,
like 72 million, I think.
I, I'm probably
74.
talking about like
Se-
his first round of,
74.
who knows? I mean,
No,
maybe
no,
they're adding in.
74 was the top because he got more than any other Republican president ever. And no one wants to talk about that, but that's totally true. And I mean,
Yeah, he had more of the Hispanic and black vote than any of the other previous Republicans.
if Biden, and I hate saying this, trust me, but if Biden hadn't crushed it with 80 million, Trump would have broken records for how many votes he got. Like, it was insane. But no, you're right, though. And I've seen this. CNN had a guy come on. He was one of their talking heads, and he was talking about how uh, we need the FBI, and this for me is incredibly disturbing. He was saying the FBI and the deep state needs to attach themselves to these people before they do criminal acts. And
Yeah.
that's just
Tom
no.
Hanks, we've seen that. Not Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking Tom Hanks fighting in the FBI. No, and there again, this is why I'm an AOC supporter, and her and Pramila Jayapal are the first people in line that signed um, a proposal saying no, we do not want you to expand your power or your money in deep state and FBI in their reach because they have enough reach. They just failed. That's the bottom line. January 6th,
Yeah,
they
and
just
we
failed.
definitely just witnessed. I mean, with the first Trump impeachment, regardless of whether you think he was obstructing justice. Of course, they didn't find any Russian ties, but was exposed was the amount of the partisanship involved with the CIA and the FBI. They were clearly, very clearly, whether it's Carter Page or any of the other peoples or Comey, they were clearly against Trump. It wasn't
Oh
impartial.
yes, yeah. That first, yeah, that it was it was complete garbage, and it, there for me that in itself is the Trump never won or Trump never lost argument that I hear. Like those two conspiracy, the Russiagate conspiracy and the Trump never lost conspiracy, they're the same in a lot of ways to me because it's like if you have proof, if you have definite proof, Carter Page, if you have proof that Trump is working with Putin, then let's see it. Stop saying you're going to show me. Stop doing these things where, oh well, we have this information and it's vague, like just
Yeah, and I mean,
generalized
Rachel Maddow
wording.
made the last 2 years of her career solely about Trump. How many times she literally got on front of television and said, "We got it, we got him.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. This is the bombshell." By the way, that word is dead to me.
Breaking news. That's another. CNN killed breaking news for me. Now I know like it could be anything. The character actor who played Urkel fell down the stairs. Breaking news. No, it's the same thing, and you know, to pair that with the, you know, the Trump didn't lose the election. Well, then where's the show me? Like, neither one of these. They're just conspiracy. They're just, and you're right. They're completely partisan. But here's the thing, and I think this is where like Pramila Jayapal, AOC, and there was more people. I'm just shortening that list of people who had signed this proposal to ban an extension of power and overreach by the FBI and the CIA. The the whole point of it is well, just like here, who started the Patriot Act? It was the right wing, right? But then a
Well,
Demo-
yeah, the Patriot Act was enacted right after our 9/11
Mhm.
attacks.
And by the way,
Basically,
and by the way, 92% of all Patriot Act actions were used in drug drug cases. So our deep state had all this power to spy on everyone, and all they did was bust druggies. Basically, that's what they did with it. And
but at the same time, they were collating data and what we would consider to be metadata these days on every. I mean, to let everyone know, it's been very feasibly and easily done since then. And this is something Snowden told us. They have been recording every single phone call that everyone in America makes for
yeah,
years
yeah.
and years.
No, but my
I mean,
point,
your
yeah,
phone calls are not private.
my point was those that like it was, and just like with Occupy Wall Street and things like that, and the Patriot Act was used to weaponize on the right's behalf against the left. Well, then we got a left wing president in named Obama, and he took that same Patriot Act and weaponized it against the Republicans. And I think that's why
Well,
Pramila
well, he also
Jayapal.
he weaponized it against the American people because not only did he re-sign it and bolster it, but I mean he was given the opportunity to. It's an unconstitutional thing in the first place,
It
and
is.
it was supposedly put in practice for terrorism, but we didn't have the same issues, and we found out very quickly that it's not being used, externally as it's being used internally now.
No, exactly. But and but I'm saying like that's why like AOC and Pramila Jayapal were like, no, we do not want you to extend your reach because they know that at some point there's going to be a Republican in office and he's going to weaponize this new creation that they made against the left. It's always going to be that way. And yeah, once you bring something like the Patriot Act in to play, no president wants to get rid of it. Obviously, because none have. Both Obama and Trump extended it and made it stronger. Because
Yeah,
let's be
I,
honest,
I,
if
I
you're the
honestly
one
think
behind
I
like
think it's out of their hands.
if you're the one
This is
controlling
where I
it,
differ from like Presidents just don't have that kind of power anymore. I think literally they are weaker than we realize. All of them.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I think all politicians. We've had that conversation where people are like, "Oh, AOC and Bernie, they're gonna turn this country into a socialist paradise." And it's like, if you think they had that power, don't you think we would have Medicare for all by now? Don't you think they would have like? There's so many things
An ideology.
fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. Uh,
What are we doing today, brain? We're going to take over the world.
I've got like Sharice Davids on speed dial. I'm like, you better handle Prop 604, or I'm coming after you. Yeah,
You're
no,
touching your ear to your earpiece, calling for maneuvers. We got a 615 on block 18. Make sure shut it down, cut it off, turn off the jammers, get it done.
we got MAGA people in the fourth quadrant of the town. We need to isolate and eliminate. Yeah, no, I mean that's not. But I've had people, customers who've been talking to me openly, and I wish they wouldn't at times. But one of the conversations I had just recently, this guy who I thought was a cool dude, all right guy. We actually talked about Aliens, which is like your favorite movie, and him and I were, he was mocking me because I said I've never seen it and whatever. He told
Then
me,
I already like him. What's
uh,
wrong here?
he told me though that he got arrested last weekend because he talked to somebody and they said that they voted for Joe Biden, and he couldn't look us. He said I couldn't look a pedophile in the face and not punch him. I'm like, you think the guy that voted for him is a pedophile? He's like, we voted for a pedophile. Like, is Joe Biden really a pedophile? Like, let's be clear here. Is he really a pedophile? No. Like, even if he was, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're attacking people because of who they vote for, and you
I
don't,
mean,
and
he could
you
have at least said he's someone who sexually assaulted Tara Reid, but
Sure, yeah,
other
that's
than that,
fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, but it's that though, and it's like I don't want someone either A coming at me with why Trump is the greatest or why Harris or Biden's the great. I don't want to hear it, and then I don't want like any altercations. So I just like if they say like, oh, well, what'd you think about this? I'm like, they're all criminals. I hate them all, and it's pretty close to what I think.
well, I mean, some ways it's almost to be honest. I think in a lot of ways, of course, I'm an atheist, so it doesn't really chime with me. But it seems like a completely natural reaction is one of those. It's like every action gets a reaction. It seems like a natural reaction of extreme, ultra Christian demonization of the left when the left has done the same thing to the right, racist Nazis, blah blah blah. I mean, it's almost just I would expected it to be like this, just because the media has been pushing these narratives of don't you know your neighbor's a racist, blah blah
Right.
blah, and just like you said, well, Aunt V is a baby eater, so what the fuck do we do now?
Exactly. Yeah. If that's what you subscribe to, you're
And
gonna
every
have
time you
that
click on that
narrative.
shit, what Zuckerberg and you know Amazon and Google and Jack Dorsey go, thanks for the quarter, assholes.
100%. No, that's exactly this messed up world that we're in. Um, in this messed up country, and Joe Biden isn't gonna fix it. None of it's gonna fix. In fact, he's gonna make it
Joe Biden
worse.
doesn't even know how to use his cell phone.
Hey, I take. You know what though?
Baby for 2 hours.
I couldn't hold a baby for 2 hours.
You could on PCP if
If I didn't eat it, yeah. And if it's mine, I probably would punt it. No,
well, he does
it's
have medical records that
he
the
did have a
doctors have said
stroke, yeah.
he has some issues, but they're associated with aneurysm and some other stuff. So he's my God, dude. He's the oldest. I think he's the oldest elected president in history. Is he not?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe he definitely.
I
No,
mean,
again, like I said, I'm actually more impressed with the fact that he could hold a baby for like 2 hours. That for me, like having a baby, yeah, I can barely watch my baby for 2 hours without like losing my shit. And if you've never
and
had
you're
one, you
sure
wouldn't
it
know.
wasn't like Joe Biden plays Quato
It's like with
from
the,
Total Recall,
or it's like with the
where he's
fake
just
baby.
the little baby comes out of his gut and it's like, hold my hand.
I was thinking more if he just has a baby doll, like it calms
Yeah,
him.
one of those lifelikes that's real
Yes,
jiggly and costs like 5 grand.
let's give Joe Biden his calming doll. He can sit there and hold his baby and feel like he's in a
We
safe
can't have the
place.
pony on stage right now.
No, but yeah, no. I mean, I gotta give him that credit. But no, what we were saying though, the hate against each other, I think is it's too far and it's ridiculous. And you're right. Like you and I had that conversation. I think we were talking. I don't know what we were talking about. It was probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I was like, dude, there's two things I'm done with. Number one, I'm done with saying on both sides because I'm sick of that. That's the new PC woke bullshit. Is I can't offend you politically without also talking about my side too. No, fuck off. Be a man. Take if it's offensive to you, take it. Your side did this. Not you, obviously. I'm just, speaking in generalities here. Like, but if you notice when you're talking politics with people, you, how many times do you hear on both sides, on both? Shut up. Like, number one, we know that. If we're talking politics, pedophiles being protected by the left. Yes,
I'm sure there's a few preachers who would agree with you.
I would racist. Well, it's our what 46th racist president. I mean, no, I take that
Yeah,
back.
no,
I
we're
take FDR wasn't a racist, but the rest.
right.
Well,
I don't think
Teddy.
Roosevelt
Yeah, I was
was
gonna say
either, and I don't
Teddy
think
wasn't.
Lincoln was.
I know Lincoln was. I'm damn sure Lincoln was.
Lincoln had the first case of white guilt. Let's get real.
Do you know what Lincoln's words were? He was like, "Oh, these N words are gonna make me free them, aren't they?"
Well, but at least him and Booker T, they got it done, man.
That's true. That is true. I mean, only to hurt the South strategically, though. It wasn't. There was no morals involved. They just wanted to handicap the South.
Yeah, when people say the rise of the South again, I really expect like some large tidal wave or swampland to encroach me. I really think that the South is going to the stars and bars are not going to be everybody's new flag.
I think deep fried cooking took care of that. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of hell. I mean, we're close enough to the South. I mean, it's a task not to eat horrible stuff. By the way, that's something I was going to mention to you or talk to you about. Completely off topic. It's
Well, I want to tell you before is if anyone screams fried chicken and Kool-Aid, I'm going to be the first one in line. So fuck off.
agreed, except for not anymore. And I know this is a horrible transition. As we're just coming out of in fact, let's finish up before we go into the closing fun thing I want to talk about. January 6th, it was a horrible thing. Those people were cowards and assholes, and I think the one thing that you can really what what hold on, two things that you can encapsulate from that moment is there was a Trump supporter beating a cop with an American flag, and if that doesn't tell you about law and order, I don't know what does. But the other one being this is I've heard this comment, and I heard this on Center uh Right of Center podcast yesterday. I had a guy, one of the hosts, Wes, he was talking to me, and he was like, I'll be honest, I'm more afraid of Antifa burning down the mall than I am about the Trump supporters killing politicians because they deserve it. And it made me realize, and it made me a comment more about law and order. Think about, like, do you understand what I'm saying with that? Like, it's
Well,
ridiculous.
to me, it just draws parallels that show you that the separation of, for the most part, I'll say when any kind of, I would say like more anarchist group um, would have an opportunity to do that because it was really weird that whole thing. It's weird how there were officers, DC officers, actually opening the doors for some of those
There
people,
were, yes.
and yeah, and there's such a weird mix of stuff. Like for instance, when that woman was like randomly shot by obviously somebody who
FBI,
was just
yeah.
yeah. I mean, that woman was just happened to be close to, and they shot in the direction of other officers who were behind them and had long guns. participate in this in anything that's on.
But
So I mean, what a mess.
quickly on that though, because that kind of irritates me to an extent because I'm incredibly rational and I get that point. But what irritates me about that, and again, this isn't directed at you, this summer, that was the same thing the left was saying. Is look, we don't condone the burning of these buildings. Now, the altercations with the cops, that's a different story. Look, because a lot of that the cops started. If you beat the crap out of a cop because he shoots you with a rubber bullet, I'm fine with it to be honest. But a lot of these buildings and stuff and things getting burned down, I never condoned. Either did a lot of people on the left. I mean, most of the left, almost all
Right.
of
It
you.
sullied whatever message they were, and I'm not saying they were
And
directly involved with it. You know, it's to do that,
but
and
I guess what I'm saying,
it was bad news for their message.
yeah, but what I was saying by that is the fact that like when we were saying, look, these people who are burning these buildings and these, this is not part of us. And this, that message never went anywhere. And it was like, nope, that's the left, that's Antifa, that's Black Lives Matter, they're violent rioters. But then when the right does it, the right saying, whoa, 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 we didn't want this to happen. There was some anarchists, there were some crazy people who got involved in this. And like part of me is like, okay, can you
Well,
remember?
I'm
Can
not
you
blaming any of that
remember
on any kind
that?
of
You know what I'm
anarchist.
saying?
I
Like,
think it was just the more extreme people on the right that, you know, the couple hundred people that rushed the building. I think they were most all of them were, you know, on the right side. Were there some participants that were kind of just they don't give a shit what side? They're not sides. They just want to burn and cause shit. Sure, but if you look at the people who have been busted, basically. It's an amazing list, and I think it's really funny. There are many police officers.
yes,
There are many military, including some active military. There were gold medal Olympians. There
one.
were well, yes, one. But the point I'm saying is not
Right.
all of them were just stand-up people, but there were a crazy mix of people that were directly involved in that. And it's kind of like, I think it's funny when they call some of these firemen, there were, you know, people that any other day we'd go, they're the first responders. They're the biggest, most wonderful people in the world. No, they're just like you and me. And just like you and me means they can make extremely bad decisions. But at the same time, if you say they're just like you and me, you can't call them. I don't think any of those people expected to become, you know, called ISIS or insurrectionists. They were just, they got too caught up in the moment, and I think they were almost allowed in the building. I mean,
In a
and
lot
that's
of in a lot of those cases, and that was the thing that irritated me the most was watching the cops handle these people who were, for all intents and purposes, they were attacking the state capital or the nation's capital. Whether you like it or not, that's what they were doing.
yeah,
And
no, I mean,
the cops were like, yes, there was that lady that got shot, and I actually feel really in her family that she died for a nothing burger. She died for
yeah,
absolutely nothing. She gave her
yeah, and
life.
they weren't busting through those doors or anything. The guy broke a window and shot through it. And like I said, he
Well, no,
shot in the direction of
she
other
jumped
police.
up. She jumped up there. I don't know if you've actually seen the video, but
No, yeah,
she jumped in. She definitely an FBI, and I'm guessing it was a Glock, maybe a 44. I don't know.
oh,
Yeah, it was
and
loud, and
it is weird
it's
how
hard to
I
say.
say it is really weird how there was some kind of, and like I said, it's tied to a stand down order, you know, and there were. Did you see the confrontation with I forget who it was? It was Nancy Pelosi talking, and there was a big Democrat supporter lady that got up that wouldn't let her talk, or was it Mitch? Was it? Did you see that? You know what I'm
I
talking
didn't
about?
know.
She and oh, that's really good. And she was obviously a lefty, but she was screaming at I can't. Who's the congressional? I think it may have been Pelosi.
I mean,
Uh,
she's the speaker.
talk, yeah, she basically shut her down and was griping about some of these things, saying, you know, you did you call the stand down order? You did, and blah blah blah, and they wouldn't answer her, and she was like, you called the stand down order to make this happen, and yet you're doing this. She was like,
That's
I'm gonna.
stupid. I don't buy that at all. They have no control over DC police. Like
No,
they're
they did
doing their
call a stand down order.
they're doing their own thing. Plus, why? Like that's the most ridiculous thing I've heard. The left would perpetrate it. Come on, it was the right. And like the people who are being arrested, who are active, the cops, some of the DC cops who are getting in trouble now have ties to these Trump organizations, like
Uh, uh,
these
I'm just.
the voters and
I mean,
their
I
supporters.
can't
And
verify
let's
who and if the stand down order was given, but I mean, sure, they're trying to vet anyone, including all the National Guard, for having the wrong opinions. I mean, they screened National Guardsmen for if like, did you vote for Trump? Did you a supporter of Trump?
and
And that's
let's also
crazy.
look at like Lauren Boebert, the Trump supporter from Colorado. These people a tour of the White House or of the Capitol the day before insurrection. She tweeted where Nancy Pelosi was. Oh, come on. Like that is more
That's
believable.
funny, man.
That's more believable than Nancy Pelosi set this up. That's I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
ridiculous. That's and by the way, perfect example of a situation of where if the left did set this up, this would have happened. The famous the black security guard cop who's being quote unquote chased by that mob, and you know how he was actually, it looked like he was being chased, but what he was doing was he was leading them away from Mitch McConnell, because apparently if they would have, he took a left, and if they would have taken a right, they would have been in Mitch McConnell's chamber. And he did that on, that was strategy. If the left would have set this up, you think they would have had Mitch McConnell ripped shred to shred by the right? Of course they would have. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and
come on.
honestly, they would have ripped him apart too.
Of course they would have. I mean, part of one of the most disgusting things about it was that they were building they built a gallows for the vice president, and they were calling for Mike Pence to be hung. That's what these people were doing. I don't buy that any politician had any sort of like, they didn't push into this. In fact, the thing that I would argue is some people like Josh Hawley, some people like Mel Brooks, they used this group to grift money, and they always thought this was rhetoric, 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 and so they didn't mind getting them all like excited and angry, and showing their power. And then when this group blew up, they were like, "Oh shit, these people were serious." They're none of these people, these politicians, they don't even live in the same world that we do. They don't
Yeah,
think they're,
I mean, I'll be honest with you. It could have been the right that did the stand down order, uh, uh, but whoever did that was
let me tell
that
you.
seemed to be
Let me tell you
self
what I think.
defeating.
Let me tell you what I think it was as far as the stand down order. I don't really believe there was a real stand down order. I believe you had the FBI screwing up again, like they did in 9/11. They had some sort of inclination that something could happen, and they were like, "Yeah, let's not worry about staffing that. I'm sure nothing's really gonna happen," because that's who the FBI is. Let's be clear. They suck at their job.
I think the left overcompensated on Biden's inauguration.
A little bit, a little bit. Uh, there again, I think that's also the FBI being like, "Hey, no, no, we're better than that." Um, and then you had certain members, I think, of the DC police who were with that group, like, and maybe not even actually joined with them, but I think they agreed with their ideology. And you know, that was the thing that I think, because you got situations where, yeah, you have someone get shot. You saw quite a few Trump supporters who were beating on cops, and cops beating on them. And then you had some of these other ones where, like, they're walking a fat lady down the stairs so she doesn't fall. Like
Yeah,
what?
no, and
Like
and that can come down to different police force, all talking, not knowing what the left or their each right and left arm is doing,
and by the
and
way, yeah, and it could be some good cop, some bad cop. We saw that this summer. There were pictures of cops and protesters kneeling and hugging together, and then you better believe there was a lot of cops shooting rubber bullets at people and protesters throwing Molotov cocktails at cops. Like so, yeah, I don't think it was much more than what it was. And what it was, I think, in a lot of ways, was some Trump supporters who were drinking a lot of Kool-Aid put on by Newsmax and OAN and all those. And
oh, they were drinking QAnon, brother.
yes, yes,
they were
tons,
they
tons
were
of,
way deeper than those news places.
tons of QAnon. You had people like the what's their name? The Oath Militia, Under Oath Militia. They were prepared. They had their own thing that they were doing, but there's only like six of them, so they didn't do very much. And for the most part, you had a majority of these people who didn't really think they could get in. It was just kind of a thing. And then when they did, they were like, "Oh, what the hell do we do?" Because that was the thing. When I was watching the live feed of it, I was like, "These people didn't think they were gonna get in. They don't know what's going." They, in fact, like two or three doors down from the Senate or from the House floor or Senate floor. I'm sorry, Senate floor is a room where a lot of our state secrets are kept. And these protesters, these whatever you want to call them, they just walked right by it. They didn't, they had no clue what they were doing. And I'm sure they were just as surprised as everybody watching at home that they got in. So, yeah, like, again, for me being
There
on the
there was
left,
there wasn't gunfire, and there it wasn't. You're going to have fire involved to be, you know, other than flagpoles smacking cops. Yeah, these are just a bunch of overexcited people, and they did the wrong thing, and it's no different than any other protests where they're attacking like the federal building for days and days and days and trying to burn it down. I mean, nobody started a fire either, but I think a lot of these things are blown out of proportion to suit somebody's you know idea of demonizing one side or the other.
see, I don't even know if I buy that, to be honest. I mean, I know what you're saying, and yes, okay, I see what you're saying. Like media wise, sure, but I also think we could learn this lesson that like how unruly a mob can become
Oh yeah,
if you're just given
Mark
an
Twain said
injection.
yeah.
What were you
Yeah, that
saying?
Mark Twain had some fancy comment about mobs, but the point is, there's nothing dumber than a mob, basically.
I would love the actual quote. That'd been great. I now I'm let down by you that you didn't have the quote.
Well,
you
it's a real short quote. I'll give it to you, but
you know what you did? You well no, I don't want to make that joke. My kid's still running around.
the pitifulest, and that's what that's what he said. The pitifulest thing out there is a mob. So
That,
it's like the
yeah,
saddest thing you can be involved in is a mob of people.
I think that's fair. I think that's completely true. But yeah, I mean I know we're probably gonna be talking back and forth about this situation. I don't think either one of us um condoned any of what happened. um, but
Well, I'll tell you one big difference is they are going to all links, and these people were stupid enough to have their masks off, which that'll one bump there for Antifa being smart enough to keep their fucking
yeah,
masks
dis-
on. Now they're being able to identify all these maskless.
dude, what did I
No, they
say?
should have been smart.
What did I say early on when the whole mask debate was going on? I said I enjoy wearing my mask because it hides my identity, right?
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, you got to remember in a lot of countries before COVID, they were, especially, like I think it was France has always had like a for different reasons because they're continuing to have terroristic problems, but banning like the full burqa, face covering for women because you can't identify those people, and well, now they want you to wear masks. You should enjoy anonymity.
You should, yes. It's a rare opportunity. No, I agree. But you're right, they are going after that, and some of them are funny, really funny. I love the dude who took Nancy Pelosi's. I don't actually love him because I've heard more about him now, but I love the picture of the dude that took Nancy Pelosi's pedestal.
Yeah, he was feet
Oh,
propped up on the desk.
no, no, not that guy. Or the podium. Sorry, I said pedestal, podium.
Yeah, the podium.
Yeah, when he's taking that picture and he's waving and smiling. Dude, when I saw that picture, I just burst out laughing.
I mean,
Him,
there's a little
the
bit of that in
bison,
all of us,
the
If we all had the opportunity to, you know, go up there and go, you fuck you to the big establishment, I think a lot of us, I mean,
oh,
don't get me wrong, there would probably be quite a few Republicans that everybody would like to take a shit on their desk and take a,
I agree. I
and,
agree. Well, and his
eh,
mom was there.
oh
like,
God.
yeah, this dude was pretty harmless. My other one who I loved was the Q shaman, the bison guy.
Right, the Biden.
Like on a hunger strike because he can't get organically sourced meat in jail, and so now he's
Well,
got
he can, he just has to kill his roommate. But
right.
bump.
Yeah, no, like it's like what the hell's your problem, dude? But no, anyway, yeah, I think neither one of us can condone this. Obviously, it was tragic. It was horrible. I also think it's a if I could wrap it up, it's a testament to how a large group of people can be pushed to the extreme on any way you look at
Or
it.
how about this? How any group of people are going to have crazy fringe people that put a bad name to the whole damn thing because they're willing to go to extremes and almost for no other reason but just to be a crazy mob. And it's a headless snake too. There was no one leading like the whole group. It was just
Well,
like, wow.
uh, some argue that Ari Anderson or Ari Alexander was the head of it. I don't know. I'd be curious on what.
One person runs in that door, they don't even see the first guy. They're just running in afterwards. He
Right,
may have been
right.
leading his group of 10 or something. But I mean, that is the way it works. One person breaks a window, comes out with a pair of sneakers, and 50 other people are behind him.
No, and I think that's a good way to put an analogy to it because if you're in that situation too, I mean, I've often wondered that. Like if I was in a
I'm going
looting.
for the Yeezys. I don't know about you.
Yeah, right. You're getting shot, white boy. If there's, but if there's a looting situation, like let's say you're at like a music store, a video game store, and people just start stealing crap and running out. I mean, you would think about it, right? Like I don't think I would do it because I would be like, I get caught. But I'd at least think about it, like for sure.
I'd run to the back where the retro section is and steal all the Super Nintendo games.
I'm trying to find a Neo Geo.
Yeah, I'd be way too lucky for that store. That's not a store in Kansas.
No, no, not at all. But also, yeah, just to also say that I also don't, and obviously I don't believe you do. But I don't consider these people to be terrorists either. Like maybe a few of them, sure. Like
I just think it couldn't be a part of a feeding frenzy like that. It's just it becomes. I mean, I embrace some of man's animalistic nature when it comes to certain other parts of our nature that we should shun. And it almost doesn't matter ideology or of any form, shape, political, religion. When people get into mobs like that, you know, even like a concert, and there's
oh
something where
yes,
people you get 20 people trampled to death. You're like, golly.
no, for sure. And by the way, too, like if it was Ari Alexander, which I believe he would be responsible if he did, or whoever it is, you still also have to know when to pull yourself back. Quick story. We were playing in Emporia. Um, I can't remember the name of the bar at the moment. We were playing in Emporia, and the the big issue of the night, which we didn't even think about, was that they were going to stop doing liquor sales at like 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even remember why. I think part of it was they were going to have their taps cleaned and they were going to have to shut down the bar for the night. They were going to shut early, but they ended up having us there, and it was also Sunday night where a lot of people were looking to blow off more steam than normal. It was right before finals week, and we went on stage at like 7, and it was apparent that people were getting just tanked. I mean, they were just chugging shots. Things were going crazy,
Right.
and we were only gonna play like 45 minutes or whatever, and we started doing some cover songs because that drunk crowd was fun as hell. Like they were really getting into the music, and it was like, all right, let's. Well,
I've been there.
we played um uh My Generation, and in the bridge part, I was just kind of doing an ad lib solo, and the singer um he yelled out, "Tear this place apart," and
Oh shit.
that's what they did. And sure enough, 2 months later, we were brought up on charges for uh,
Inciting a riot.
inciting a riot. Yeah, and it was incredibly terrifying. And yeah, you get to that moment where you're like, you know, shit, I guess I did do that. Like, I mean, granted, we were found not guilty, and judge basically let us off with the warning. But it was you get that
You
though
should have
when you have
followed
that
it up
feel.
with REM, just going, stand in the place where you drink. Now,
Or just do Everybody Hurts. That would really bring
everybody.
everyone down.
Oh, God.
But yeah,
This
no,
is the
yeah.
end of the drinking as we know it. Oh, sorry.
But yeah, you don't, that's what happens though. Things get crazy and chaotic, and you feel like you're Superman for a while, and yeah, you're not, and yeah, you don't. But I think that's what happened, and I think some of those people, sure, they probably are terrorists. Some of them are pretty scummy, I'm sure, but just like every other group that exists.
Yeah.
But I don't. Do you have any more on that?
Well, I don't think for either, just like we are saying, either side, I don't think for any political movement or, you know, sociological movement or whatever, it's never a good idea to engage in that kind of mob behavior. I mean, peaceful protests still have a serious impact, even more so. If you have a sit-in and you have thousands of cops beating people in the face and spraying them with pepper spray for sitting there, that has a lot more impact on the general population than the opposite of going in and beating people to death for your goal. I mean, people still respond the same way to peaceful protests. It's really about numbers and support, and you can't twist it if nobody starts with the violence.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right there. But and I'm glad, like honestly, I wanted to get that out of the way. Um, because as we've done this show, and like this one being the big one, I think like real political, we've been moving less and less political, and you got to cover the news, right? We talk about the news, and it's fine, fair enough. But it does get to be overwhelming and almost just draining on you. There's so many other things to talk about that's going on that I think is a little bit more fun. And no, it's not just because Biden is now president. Biden screws things up. You better believe I'll talk about it. But I, eh, let me give you an example. One thing I was going to talk to you about, and I thought like. This is a perfect scenario of maybe understanding how people are and the struggle of people. I realized today that you can't be a real parent right now. Like, hear me out. You talk. A lot of people say, "Oh yeah, you can, raise your kids right." You can't do it. You can't have a job and raise your kids right. My son is a 2DS. He loves his 2DS. I don't know why. It looks like a doorstop. It's whatever. He loved this thing. He has a Nintendo Switch, by the way. He's not some poor child using old
Well, in
stuff.
his defense, it doesn't have controller drift and the battery lasts a lot longer.
Fair enough. But he has. He also has a PS3. He has a. Trust me, he's taking care of kid. He dropped it, right, and broke the screen. And apparently he was real upset. And I went ahead and ordered him a new 2DS XL. It's like the last version
Right.
that you can get, whatever. And I came home and it was Friday and I told him he was upset and then I told him I got it for him and he was all happy and oh and yeah, even my wife was like, "Oh, you're such a good dad," but whatever. At that same time, he wanted to talk to me about this situation that happened and how sad it was. I had to basically tell him, "Hey, I need you to shut up and go into the other room because I got to talk to a comic for 30 minutes so I can afford to buy you that." You see what I'm saying? Like, you can't provide physically and mentally for your kids because one of the two has got to give. Like, if you have a full-time job, you can't be there for your kids. Like, you're gone. If you have the gigs like I do, where you've got like three different jobs essentially, you don't have the time to be there mentally for them. And that's just the fucking like physical mental aspect. That's not the cleaning the house, the food. Where are you gonna, you know, non-GMO, non-hormonal, you know, or ethically sourced food. And by the way, you better have different varieties of food. You don't want to just making the same crap. It's draining. It is the most. And by the way, to add on top of all that, you've got to eat that crap too. You know what I had for dinner tonight?
Soylent Green.
Essentially, garbanzo bean and quinoa salad.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Now I will say this: I like eating healthy. It actually makes me feel better. Like I don't feel like just bogged down. But my point is like it's everything for me and my wife to do the little we do, and we're still failing. I don't know how you do it. I don't know who has the time. Like,
Nobody wins at parenting, dude. You're just bigger kids taking care of little kids. That's all it is. It's really just an extended version of Lord of the Flies.
you want to know the most arrogant and pompous realization that I had and why it's so arrogant and pompous?
What?
So the main reason I've noticed this change is because colleges around here have opened back up again. They opened up again around the mid fall semester. They opened fully up. Well, our nanny slash maid went back to college, and so now I don't have the help, and I can't have her come back because she have to quarantine. It doesn't work. So I've now got to be the maid, and it sounds so arrogant, I know, and it sounds incredibly pompous. Like I, I'm losing fan. Listeners are like, "Ugh, did you just say that?" I get it. People don't have that, and I'm not so wealthy that I have. I have a 2003 vehicle. Like that's one way I have money to afford a maid nanny. But like I'm thinking, how do you do it without that help? Like insane.
Well, it could be that, but you got to understand the same people bitching about that probably have $200 or $300 a month in cable bills. So just remember some people's priorities are at least more more correct to have a clean house and pay a maid than they would paying for every NFL channel and everything else like that. I mean, I can attest you do not drive a Testarossa, so
Yeah,
nor
no.
do I.
So this totally happened as I'm leaving my business to take money to the bank yesterday. I'm driving down the road and I hear I have to pull over right by my business that I own, and just like you would a hemorrhoid or a hernia, I've got to shove parts of my bottom carriage of my car into itself so it'll stop scraping on the ground.
Would like the bumper housing fall off, or what?
Something like, yeah, basically the whatever that, what's that black thing on the bottom of the plastic under the bumper?
Oh, yeah, it's not a like a reverse bug shield. It's like the
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's just fallen through, so I've got to push it up and then like push it to the side.
Oh,
It
right. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's just that thick, heavy, kind of tar-like plastic that's
Yes,
in
yeah.
between the frame and your engine and that kind of stuff.
And I can't for the life of me tear it off or cut it off.
Oh no,
So it just gets shoved up in. That's yeah, that's my vehicle.
it's really just a water guard between your hubs and your engine. That's all that's all that stuff is.
Yeah, and considering I drive my car, what, maybe 2 miles a day, maybe. I
Yeah,
don't
you can
care.
totally cut it out if you want to. I don't think it's going to hurt the value of that vehicle.
Yeah, I think I've already destroyed that value of the vehicle. I
Okay, but it still runs.
I'm not a car guy. Not definitely not a car guy.
Well, it's hard to afford the tools to be a car guy. Trust me.
Let me. You ever get into that at all? Like working on your vehicles or anything?
Well, I'll tell you as quick as I can a sad story of why I'm not a car guy. When I was 17 years old, my dad and I drove out into the country and found a 1969 Ford Mustang Fastback for $2,000. Its
Holy
body,
shit!
its interior, and everything was original and intact. We were actually able to smokingly drive it back to my house. I sat in my garage for 4 hours that night and buffed it with my spit. I was so fucking happy to have that vehicle. But unbeknownst to me, during the night, my wonderful mother apparently was upset that my father spent $2,000 without first consulting or asking her. And as I woke up on that next day, which happened to be a Sunday, and I went to work at the arcade, by the way, that next morning I went out to see my vehicle that was not going to be running yet, but it was in the garage. It was no longer there, nor was my father. And so I ran to my mother and said, "Where the fuck is my car?" And she said, "You're going to have to ask your father about that." So I went to work, and my father, who he was like a coach and a a sporto guy, and he doesn't cry, came up to my work crying to me that my mother had demanded that he take the car back and get the check back.
Holy shit! How? And no offense to your mom or your dad,
So
I'm
ask
just
me why I'm not a car guy again.
how how can you stay with a person like that? Literally, like
Let's
if
just
you're
say there is not a deity or one of the apostles, including Jesus himself, that could apologize for my mother for that.
if
If I still had that vehicle, it'd probably be worth somewhere around $50,000 to $75,000.
at least at least
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if you were, but like you've been married for a long time. If you bought something and your wife was like, "No, you need to take it back and ask for your money back," I, would you do it? I mean,
I don't. Let's just say I don't. I understand a lot of my mother's psyche at this point. Especially the speaking in tongues part.
oh Jesus.
But you must understand that I I think my father just basically did it because apparently my mother kind of threw down an ultimatum, which is insane because it was nor the money nor the the purchase or the value that was in her mind. It was that I probably didn't deserve it,
Jesus
and regardless
Christ.
of how, so it was really just her bias and her hate towards me that fueled that. Even though my dad wanted that car as badly as I did, so I do not blame him in any way because I think she probably threw the gauntlet down. And my dad, by the way, was a really good dad, so it wasn't like he had ever done anything wrong. I just don't know where to go with that other than just to put it in my safe place, bury it as deep in my colon as I possibly can. It's 100% true story, and that's why I'll never be one of those gearheads. I'm already 44, so it's a little late, but I was never in. never going to invest that kind of emotional energy in a vehicle after that debacle at 17.
I think there's like so much more to that though. Honestly, like as I hear the whole car and I get the car thing, but I go so many other places. Number one, like if my wife did that to me now with my son, and I said, "Hey, we have the money," and she was like, "No, I just don't think he deserves it." So either I leave or that leaves. I would say, "Bye, see ya."
Yeah, well,
Like you can, don't you know don't begrate my son like that for one,
you
and
have to
two,
understand my mother's
wow,
perspective at her church at the time. It was one of those interdenominational, very charismatic churches that preached the wealth doctrine. You know, you give money to the church, and her other friends at the church all had sons somewhere close to my age who were actual miscreants, and I thought these guys were kind of cool, but I mean they had been involved with a little bit of the law even at 12 years old. So her support group was full of women who had actual you know problem children and probably didn't have a husband in the relationship and stuff. So she was determined to prevent me from becoming a godless heathen, which is exactly how I turned out by making sure that nothing that I didn't deserve ever came into my life, and not the only thing I should be grateful for is whatever God provides. Well, God didn't build that 1969 Mustang Fastback, and it sure wasn't God that took it away from me. So she really screwed up on that one because I said some other words about Jesus, and it wasn't "Thank you, Lord."
there's so many. Yeah, like for me, there's so many layers that, yeah, there
Let's
we
just
could
say
do
my
another
wife is
hour.
fully aware of that story, and when we go back for Christmas or Thanksgiving or stuff, a couple times I've like brought that up, and you can just see my father just going, "That's the one time I really screwed up in my life," and so it's really hard to even bring that up again because it's like if you had an ultimate guilt trip to throw on one parent and not the other, even though because my mother wouldn't feel any regret towards it, but
Right,
of
right.
course my father would because he was a big car guy. He loved Corvettes and he loved fast cars and stuff. So I mean, the real pain is I just bring it up and it just makes my dad about cringe and go into tears. It doesn't hurt my mom, and she'd be the one that I'd actually want to throw that at. So
No,
it's
I
it's
get you on
pointless.
that. Although, like I'm saying, I actually blame your dad a little bit more because my perspective of it is that whole saying "happy wife, happy life" is retarded. I don't
Yeah,
buy.
no,
No, you gotta if I'm not saying be mean or whatever, but like if I'm not happy, my wife knows it. If I want to do something or I want something, and I'm being fiscally responsible, but yet for some reason she's just not
but
cool with it.
if you had an opportunity, which even if she didn't recognize that opportunity, just having you the ability, you've never said, "Hey, honey, I'm going to go sell our children to this,
Right.
organization." But other things can be replaced, and money can come back, and you should. Yeah, no, there's some blame there. I think there was probably. My dad was by far not a coward, but there's something that says that there was some cowardness there, and there's also something else to say. Sure. I mean, there's a little mix in all of that. And was I a great kid? No, I wasn't in any trouble, but I was definitely going out and drinking and partying just like any other 17-year-old, and I had no issues with that. But I think my mother foresaw like me waiting for the devil to literally come by in his aspirate mobile and pick me up because that's where I was going. I was going to hell, so
Well,
why give the devil a fast car?
you would need a ride since now you don't have. Like if the
Well, I
devil
was
shows up
driving a
and
Chevrolet Celebrity at the time, and if you don't know what a 1987 Chevrolet Celebrity looks like, you don't get a lot of poontang driving that sucker around. Let's just say.
Well, and it probably broke down a lot. All I'm saying is, yeah,
No, it was an unkillable car actually, but it just made me look, it was an effeminate vehicle. It was a box car. It didn't look like anything, but it
yeah,
wasn't cool.
I hated
And if you
those.
compare it to a 1969 Mustang Fastback, it's like you see a snail and then you see somebody's RC car that costs 2 grand. That's the difference between those two items.
You're 100% right. No, I'm in that like, my happiness. It's it's all like downhill from me. Like it's a trickle. If I'm not happy, I can't be happy for my family. So I gotta be happy first. I don't think there's enough people like that. I think that's one of those things, especially married dudes. I think there's too
Well, and
much on
you're right. I mean, there is that small amount of selfishness which should have overtaken that. Said, look, this him having this and taking care of this, this. If you love something so much, you're bound to be responsible with it because you love it so much. You know what I'm saying? It's like you give something that somebody has to work. You have to put effort and time and understanding and learning into a vehicle like this. You would appreciate and those things. You would appreciate the responsibility given, and it wasn't just going to be like some fast car is going to get in and kill myself. And that's not the excuse. I'm sure she said that was an excuse, but there's also that what you were just saying. It's like I'm sure I could never confront my father and say what was the discussion, what was the entire
right. No,
discussion.
and to to kind of cover him a little bit. I think back in the day, that's the way men were supposed to be. Is like,
Well, that's definitely
you
what the
know,
church was for. I'm sure that somehow the church kind of talk was involved with that. I'm sure she brought up Jesus, told him, she talked to Jesus and she said he doesn't deserve that kind of car because he hasn't, been baptized 8 times.
well,
So
and
there was
you know what?
probably.
Check this out. Here's my theory on a lot of it is that's the old man, like the old men women relationship is the man is just grin and bear it. He's a provider, blah blah blah.
Right.
He keeps like anything choked down. Doesn't worry about his happiness. That's not paramount. Then, and I'm not saying this happened with your dad because it didn't, but then dude either steps out on the wife because he's got to find happiness. Like he'll break if he doesn't find that happiness, or
Right.
picks up a bottle, or completely breaks and becomes one of those like there's only about 3 or 4 of options, and one of them's like completely breaks and just becomes what his wife is. Like it's
Or breaks and gets the shotgun and says,
right,
family,
yes,
we're going to go on a permanent vacation.
yeah, yeah, no, exactly. And I think you gotta be you gotta take care. Not that you don't take care of other people, but you gotta take care of you first because yeah, if you're not happy, you can't make anyone happy. But I don't know. Anyway, man, we do gotta shut this down though because my head is ringing. It's quite entertaining. But anyway, thanks a lot, Scott. I appreciate it. I think either the next day or two, I want to get on. We want to do Sea of Thieves. Totally want to make that happen. Um, so check it. Be on the lookout for us then. And I think probably Saturday I'm gonna try to get on and do something either on the Twitch channel or on here, one of the two. Now that playoffs are kind of like winding down, now I have like more time on the weekend. So anyway, I
So I
appreciate you,
can
man.
wear my Bears sweater without being ridiculed now,
Hey, people just feel bad for you now.
huh?
After last week, they just feel bad for you. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Take care.